Bridging diversity and mindsets. Highlight the best global practices. Educate broadly and inspire deeply. Expat Insights talk show every Monday morning at 8:25 on Business Radio 98.9. Өглөөний мэнд хүргэе. Expats Insights нэвтрүүлэг эхэлж байна. Манай өнөөдрийн хүндэт зочноор Монголын бизнесийн зөвлөлийн гүйцэтгэх захирал ноён Jim Dwyer оролцож байна. Hello and welcome to Expats Insights. I'm your host Nomina. We talk external views of internal success by foreigners and expats who have made Mongolia to their home. My guest today is an Honorable Executive Director of Business Council of Mongolia, Mr.Jim Dwyer. Good morning.
Hi, it's nice to be here with Noman.
Nice to meet you. So let's start talking about your background and what brought you in Mongolia.
Well, some people talk about my journey. It's from Manhattan to Mongolia. And I went to business school in New York at Columbia Business School.
Okay.
And then joined Wall Street firms and specialized in what we call mergers and acquisitions. Mm-hmm. And I had a career of some 25 years or so based in New York, running 2 or 3 departments for big investment banks. The last big one was actually based in Switzerland, Union Bank of Switzerland, UBS. Mm-hmm. So people there in London and Zurich and Tokyo reported to us in New York and to me. And my career was starting to kind of get to the end. I know the Swiss liked a little gray hair from top executives, so I was doing fine. But I got a call one day from a big accounting firm, KPMG, saying, would you be available to sell the biggest bank in Mongolia? The government owns it and they want to privatize it. And so I said, I would be, but tell me 2 things. Is it profitable, and does it have good market share? Mm-hmm. And they said yes and yes. So then I said, well, okay, when do you want me to start? And they said, well, we really like you to be here in about 2 weeks. And I said, okay.
That's a very quick notice.
But I had one question. I said, where is Mongolia? Because I'd spent a lot of time in Europe and in North America, but I'd not been in Asia. I came, and I thought it would take about a year to sell the bank, and we were successful. And I thought I'd be back in Manhattan. But here I am. They asked me to stay and sell the biggest retail bank, which then was called the Agricultural Bank.
How long was that ago?
It was 2001.
2001, that means 13 years.
Yep. So for the first 2 years working on those 2 bank transactions, the second one is now called Han Bank. I was going back and forth to the U.S. I would take breaks and go back. But then I decided to stay here, and so I've been a permanent resident since 2003, so for the last 10, 11 years.
So when you first come into this country, this must be a new experience for you, I'm sure. And what was your first impression about when your plane first landed at the airport, and how did you feel it?
Well, it was like it was a new adventure. In some respects, it was like going to New York City for the first time to go to graduate school. Mm-hmm. The Big Apple, the big financial center, and I was from the Midwest and had gone to college in the Midwest. And I was just on my own. So it was an adventure, the start of a wonderful adventure, which continues.
What do you enjoy most about Mongolia?
I've had a chance to do quite a bit of traveling. To the Gobi, spent time 4 or 5 hours with the family that had the Weeping Camel. They made a movie out of that.
Yes.
And it was a wonderful experience to be with them. They brought in the 70-year-old. The white camel was still out in the herd, but he came in. The 2 90-year-olds were there, and all 4 generations were there, and they were all in the movie. Mm-hmm.
Are you also in the movie?
No. It had been made and was famous already. This was made in about, I think, around 2000, and it was in movie theaters around the world.
I'm sure you had lots of fun adventures, which are still going on, of course. And what was the most funny experiences you had in Mongolia?
I'll tell one funny first-time experience. A group of friends went out to Terrell's for a weekend. It was my first time sleeping in a ger. And the ger I was in, there was one other person in it, and there was a big rainstorm that night, and the rain started pouring in the top of the ger.
Right.
And it was, going on the stove and the table in the middle, not on the beds around. But, the next morning we went in and had coffee, and we said, hey, it really rained, made a mess in our ger. How about you guys? And they said, you dummy, all you had to do was pull the cord, the string, the rope, and you would closed it. So this American gave a lot of people some good laughs over coffee that morning.
Right. This is actually known as the curtain of the ger.
We didn't know.
Go out of the ger and find the rope and close it.
Yeah, that never happened again.
I think that's most foreigners face it when they experience Mongolian culture, especially stay in the ger. Let's talk about your professional background now. Tell us about your organization and what are your missions?
We started a business council 7 years ago. It actually broke away from a business council based in Washington, and I've been running it since we formed it 7 years ago. It's called, as you mentioned, the Business Council of Mongolia. So that's been my business. We have really two main missions.
Right.
One is to bring investment into Mongolia from local companies or international companies. And the second is to make the business climate, the laws and the climate here, better, more up to international standards, so everybody can do better business.
Right.
We say business wants more business. Our businesses want more business. We try to help them.
You have quite a number of members in your organization. Perhaps we can talk more about it.
We started with 35 members. They were all foreign. Now we have 250. More than half are Mongolian. In fact, our board is now at 30, which is was our total membership when we started. Our board is as big as the whole membership. And from these members, we have different working groups in different sectors: tax, legislative, capital markets, environmental. We're starting a new one, transport or logistics. And we have volunteers from our members that are in those areas. Right now we have about 225 individual volunteers that are coming up with issues that they see that can be, they can make recommendations that we then talk to government officials, whichever ministry might be involved or agency, to try to help convince them to make things better, be it laws or different policies.
I'm interested in knowing what sort of activities you involve both externally and internally.
There are a lot of people involved. We have the leading English source of news on business and economy and politics every Friday. We're up to about our 320th weekly issue. We have meetings once a month for our members. This past Monday, we had 110 people on that. It would have been more, but some people were at the Mongolian MEF, Economic Forum. But the 110 people heard an advisor to the Ministry of Economic Development. The two people, both the ADB person and the ministry person, spoke about public-private partnerships, what they're trying to do. Another person spoke about the head of Areva, the French uranium company, spoke about uranium and what they're doing with the government and trying to find uranium in Mongolia. We then had a big signing ceremony with the Invest Mongolia agency, who came to the Business Council and said, please team with us, help, because we're both trying to get investment into Mongolia, cooperate closely with them. And then we drink wine and beer, and people network and try to do business too. So we do things like that. So we're very active. And we then go to conferences like next month there's a conference in London, the Mongolian Investment Summit, and I will chair the first of the 2 days. The second will be chaired by a fellow who runs the British Mongolia Business Council. He's in London.
There's another one.
He was in Parliament there for 3 terms, and now he's running for his 4th. He's very good. He's a great speaker. He's used to being in the London, in the House of Parliament. He will give a dinner for us while we're there one evening, which will be fun, in Parliament.
Та яг одоо Expat Insights нэвтрүүлгээр Монголд ажиллаж амьдарч байгаа гадны мэргэжилтнүүдийн ярилцлагыг хүлээн аван сонсож байна. Бизнес радио 98.9. You're listening to Expat Insights talk show hosted by Nomina. We take external views for internal success. Business Radio 98.9. Okay, how would you state the current condition of Mongolia's business sector and the new investment law to affect the level of investment to the industry?
That's a good question. The business sector really hit its peak in 2011, the year after the Oya-Togoi agreement was done. A lot of business came in, a lot of foreign direct investment, FDI, came in. But then a bad law was passed in 2012, right before the election in 2012. And boom, things stopped in terms of foreign investment. And that's a very important part of bringing the money into the country. The foreign money coming in helps people then with mainly in the mining area, come up with coal or copper or petroleum or iron ore and sell it internationally. And exports bring money in too. So since that law was passed, things came to a halt, and it wasn't until the law was repealed and replaced by a good law last November that things have been kind of hasn't changed the investment yet, but now things are set and it will enable investment. And this Invest Mongolia agency has processed 95 new registrations just in the last 2 months. So things could get better, but people are waiting for the government and Oya-Togoi or Rio Tinto to agree to accept $4 billion in the financing so that OT can do a big underground mine, which is really where all the value will be. People are waiting for that. When that happens, the psychology will completely turn around. It could happen. People thought it might happen by March 31st. There's some deadlines that the banks had put in, but it will happen sooner or later, probably, almost certainly this year at some point. And when that happens, things really could start to turn around. Until then, though, things are kind of at a lull. The people that supply mining with equipment and stuff are not getting many orders. OT has kind of been shut down, except for the concentrate. So right now we're kind of at a lull. But there's great upside potential to be led by mining. And the people that supply mining, the supply chain we call it, and that will drive the economy maybe for the next 5 years.
In what areas do you believe should be the focus of Mongolia's investments, apart from the mining, to help and realize its full potential for growth and diversification?
Diversification, the ag sector is a huge potential area to be developed with money needed. It will be the driving force. It has to be. There will be money put into hopefully a big new reserve fund, and it will be allocated in helping companies in different sectors. And ag is certainly a notable one, because as they build out the infrastructure which is needed to ship out minerals, it will also help other areas such as tourism and the like. People will be able to fly directly into DZ or maybe even to near Hofskol.
How competitive are Mongolian agricultural companies on an international scale, and which export markets are the interest to producers?
Well, the ag sector needs to have a lot of money to put new systems in place. For example, meat is a natural product for Mongolia. We have now, with 15 million new animals born this year. We have almost, I think it's about 57 million animals. And so beef, and our neighbor in Russia eats horse meat. But we don't have the systems to make the meat, in the proper international standards yet.
Right.
But we will. So there's a lot of upside, and meat is just one. Cashmere, as we know, is also potential major export product. So, but I think it will take a while, and mining is going to help build the country, and then we'll see these other areas open up.
Speaking of mining industry, there has been a tremendous impact concerning environmental issues. And what do you think about it?
Historically, the local companies have not been doing that well. The local mining companies, for example, that were looking for gold, didn't know how to take care of the environment. And they really have just, they would mine the gold and just leave a mess behind them. All over Mongolia, there was a lot of that. And people didn't know that you could really, you had to worry about the environment. Now they do, and they've started to see what's done internationally. So I think the local companies will have to improve and take care of the environment, which is part of mining. I mean, because without environmental protection, though, which was the case over for maybe 10 or 15 years until just about the last 5 years. There was damage done, but now I think when things get going again, the local companies will have much improved standards. They will have learned from international competition. Another way to look at it is there's a huge new hotel being built called Shangri-La, and they have about 90 hotels, and they're world-class, 5-star hotels all over Asia. I just saw one of their hotels in Tokyo listed as the top hotel in Asia. When they open next year, their first tower, they will have, I think, about 5 restaurants. And people will just see the kind of service. You can walk by the building that they're making, and you don't see any construction like that in Mongolia.
Right.
There's no wood. It's all metal, and I don't know how they're doing it, but I mean, it's really high tech.
Glasses.
And they know how to do it. But coming back to the service, local hotels or local restaurants will have to improve service to compete with them.
What would be the key elements to stabilize the economy and to encourage and promote the growth of local small and medium-sized enterprises?
The key for Mongolia is to be able to export their products, export products, and be selling meat or cashmere or coal to foreign buyers and bringing money in here, building up their businesses more, diversifying into new areas. So the key is that the quality has, though, to be competitive, or they won't have foreign buyers, and be able to substitute for some of the imports that come in, food from China. They'll hopefully be having real milk here, real yogurt here, because there's certainly an opportunity for that.
Sure.
So they'll replace.
Is going for an organic food.
Yeah. So looking at trade, I mean, there's exports, which we've got to get better products or services and get more of. Imports, we want to cut down.
Sure.
And we want to do things locally that can substitute for the Chinese food or the petroleum we get from Russia. So we got to cut down on the imports, and then we'll have a big trade balance surplus.
What
it's going
are
to take
the
a while.
things that we can improve to export in the future?
Okay. Well, in the mineral area, which, as I said, for the next 5 years will be the driving force, there's got to be more value added to the product. First, we've got to come out of this stagnation that we're in now in the business sector, and foreign investors coming back in, hopefully starting maybe by next year, now that the law is fixed. But that just that enables them, but they've got to see some things happen like OT and maybe power plant number 5 get built, maybe have the new airport fixed or coming along. There's a huge coal deposit to have on Togoi that the government has been mismanaging, hasn't really done much yet, but it's huge. It's got to get going. When some of these things happen, it will pick up. And the growth rates have been over 10%, even though it's been tough. It was 11.7% last year, even though coal shipments were down and prices of coal were down in China. Longer term, there's tremendous upside potential. If the underground mine is built at OT, they say by 2018, which is 5 years or so from now, the real value of OT will be realized, starting to be realized through the underground. And that might contribute something like 30% of the economy. Right now we're at about $10 billion in gross national product, or GDP. We could at that point be at about 30 billion, and OT will be doing about 10 million of it all by themselves. But if these other things are going, we have the chance to be, people liken us maybe to Qatar, small population, big natural resources. Theirs is, I think, all oil, but we have everything except maybe diamonds. We have everything in the ground. And so after 5 years or so, as I said, then we, I think, can see diversification into other areas. Hopefully the infrastructure will be much better, and we'll be able to sell cashmere and meat, and who knows what other things could evolve. But there's a tremendous future looking out 10 and 20 years.
Та яг одоо Expert Insights нэвтрүүлгээр Монгол ажиллаж амьдарч байгаа гадны мэргэжилтнүүдийн ярилцлагыг хүлээн аван сонсож байна. Бизнес радио 98.9. You're listening to Expert Insights talk show hosted by Nomina. We take external views for internal success. Business Radio 98.9. Recently, we had a Mongolian economy forum. I'm wondering if you have attended the forum. Please share us your opinion.
The Mongolian Economic Forum, Monday and Tuesday of this week, was focused on the year 2040.
Right.
Not 2014. A lot of people are worried about 2014. They're focused on 2040 and what different scenarios there are that we might follow or we could learn from. I mean, one was great, one was mixed. One was mining doing great, and it was environmentally green and everything. Another one was not so much just mining, but a lot of new areas in addition to mining. The third one was pretty stagnant. But what could we do in that case? In that case, we should sell all the minerals we can as right now, because down the road we might not be able to do that. But there's great opportunity or upside in 2040, as they were talking about. So that's 25 years from now, I guess. And so that's the real future. And the upside is tremendous. It's not guaranteed, but the upside potential is tremendous.
I leave the last question open for you. If there's anything I haven't asked that you wanted to talk about, now is the time for you.
If you had asked me what my two favorite hobbies were before I came here, I'd say beaches and golf. And how can we can't have beaches here, so that's not out. But golf is also, we have a water problem.
I saw one very interesting project in Germany that they made this indoor beach facility. So why not in Mongolia? And you're working in this business sector, and we can attract some investments.
Well, I guess they have an indoor ski place in Dubai that Paul Bryan, who now came in to be CEO of Mongolian Growth Group, was running. But in any event, we now have the MCS ski, so we do have one ski place. Ideally, what I'd like to see would be more open spaces being used by students. But unfortunately, a lot of the students don't have access to good recreational outlets after school. And it'd be nice to see that change over time. Maybe it'll take a while.
Okay, well, our time's up, and thank you for coming, and it's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Oh, well, it's been fun being here with you and your producer, and I like the thought of business radio.
It's a fairly new radio, and I hope you like the concept of it.
Yes, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Та бүхэн Монголын бизнесийн зөвлөлийн гүйцэтгэх захирал ноён Jim Dwyerтай хийсэн ярилцлагыг хүлээн аван сонслоо. Энэ удаад бид Монголын бизнесийн зөвлөл гэж ямар байгууллага болох, тэдний үйл ажиллагаа, зорилго чиглэл, гишүүд болон тэдний хамтын ажиллагаа. За тэгээд Монгол орны эдийн засаг, бизнесийн орчин, гадны хүнийн дээр ямар байгаа талаар ирээдүйн чиг хандлагыг бодит судалгаан дээр үндэслэн ярьсан сонирхолтой ярилцлага болж өндөрлөө. Гадны мэргэжилтнүүдийн дуу хоолойг хүргэдэг Expats Insights нэвтрүүлэг өндөрлөж байна. Даваа гараг бүрийн 8 цаг 20 минутаас номинамины бий та бүхэнтэйгээ шин зочин, шин сэдвээр дахин уулзах болно. Bridging diversity and mindsets. Highlight the best global practices. Educate broadly and inspire deeply. Expat Insights talk show every Monday morning at 8:25 on Business Radio 98.9.